Thank you, Professor Lee, and wonderful introduction and wonderful opportunity here. I will make use of this opportunity to push things to the edge of the envelope and not just talking about learning analytics, but indeed look at big data. In particular, I like to use, for example, cloud computing as the entry point, and then look at how the cloud, after reframing as a valuable knowledge source for staging learning platforms and learning environments. And I will also amplify some of the things that Dr. Pardo has talked about, in particular about interpretation, collection of the data, and also, of course, visualization, and also the cultural hurdle in bringing together all these things into adoption. All right, so let me just, is this working? Yes. Well, there are several things impacting us for change, and in fact, if you look at the whole revolution going out there because of digitalization, I would say that learning and education seems to be the least affected. So we only just now we realize that big changes are forthcoming. The onset of the knowledge economy, the requirements to carry out work, which are knowledge work, but not just repetitive work. It forces us to learn and practice in much shorter cycles. People carrying smartphones, mobile phones, they can access data and so all sorts of multimedia anytime, anywhere. And also the importance of addressing the skill gap. Universities are realizing people that we're producing out there, while they may have the discipline knowledge, but industry are still saying that there are skills that needs to be addressed, which you may fall out of the typical curriculum that we teach. There's also the onset of the massive open online learning, which I'll talk a little bit as an example, but not the focus of this talk. Plus, I will also showcase a personal learning environment that I've used it for my students. Over 2,000 of them have used them for the last 4 years to keep up with everybody's lifelong learning and also peer-based learning. All right, I think writings on the wall, in order to to derive any sort of sensible interpretation and impact with the rapid collection and accumulation of data, we have to be looking at a cloud environment in order to do this. And this, obviously, we're talking about, in a greater sense, beyond the local universities data as well. Many people, when you come to talk about big data, they start collecting and analyzing the data within their own organization, within their own university. That's nothing wrong. That's probably one of the sensible steps to follow. But then again, don't ignore, don't overlook the importance and the criticalness of external data, especially historical data, which can also, after careful comparison and overlaying, make a lot of sense in helping our prediction as well. I'm not going to go through the typical definition of cloud computing. I'm assuming that most people would have some basic familiarity with it. It's not a new piece of technology. It's a business model of integrating a set of services that can be easily provisioned for people with scalable resources to provide. And that resources, in most cases, it can be IT resources, networking, software, hardware, storage, capacity, and so forth. Now, most people, based on my talking to many people, most people's interpretation or understanding of the cloud seems to be limited to IT services. Now, watch out. In the next 10 minutes, we're going to push things to the edge of the envelope and going to reframe the whole thing about cloud computing, and then bring it to how the cloud can actually be a learning, a dynamic learning environment to support everyone's learning. Not only that, we can also source knowledge from the cloud to obtain input, which may be very hard for computers to derive. All right, so most people would consider a cloud as a cluster or a set of clusters of computers linking together, massive connections of data and CPU resources and storage as well. There's nothing wrong with that. Can we expect more from a cloud? I'm astounded when I talk to many other professors. When I talk about cloud computing, usually the most common feedback that came back to us is, you're talking about Gmail, you're talking about Google Drive, you're talking about LinkedIn and social networking software and that sort of thing. Well, actually, we are trying to see whether we can embed or draw more intelligence from the cloud. Now, one of the obvious things that you can think about is probably the data. Probably analyzing, collecting, analyzing, and making sense of the data in the cloud. But there is more. And I'm glad that recently, the industry are waking up to this as well. I'm starting to see that people talking about at commercial conferences, about how we can actually use the cloud to do, for example, ideation, source of ideas, harnessing wisdom, and crowdsourcing. So revisiting this statement here, let me inspire everybody to think. In fact, there is more. A cloud can be a thing that connects computers, data, and people at a massive scale, right? Don't overlook the people element. And I would say that there are three types of connections in the cloud, the more you think about it. First one is the hardware connections, right? These are the cabling, the spaghetti, and all those things that link together the hardware inside the clusters of computers inside the cloud. The second type of connection is, assuming that is, for example, a social networking cloud that has software installed in it, like LinkedIn, Pinterest, Google, YouTube, and so forth. How do you access those software? You have to create an account on those software. By creation of an account, you are automatically making a connection to a software that is installed in the cloud. We call that the second type of connection, people to machine. Then, of course, unless you are antisocial, otherwise, why would you sign up an account on those clouds? So once you do that, you start building up your own trusted network. And then you have the third type of connections, that's the people-to-people connections inside the cloud. The third one is very important because it comes with trust. So after this reframing, we start to see a different cloud altogether, a dynamic cloud with access to people, access to knowledge, intelligence, in addition to having software and software that can do analysis, analytics, as well as reaching out to all sorts of people to ask them to cast opinion, and I'll show you how. I call this the knowledge cloud. Well, in terms of connections, researchers have already stated that by 2020 we expect about 70 billion connections about these three types of connections in the cloud. And Gartner Group, about last year, they also stated that 2016, which is just around the corner, a third of our digital content, our personal digital content, will be in the cloud. And I'm surprised that scale has not been exceeded, even now. And you may also assume that, based on statistics from emissions from Facebook when they floated, and in January 2013, they also publicly declared they have more than 1 billion accounts. Right? Those are the connections between people and the cloud. Well, let's see how we can actually, use this reframe the cloud to help solving problems. Harnessing wisdom of the crowd is not new. It's something that the concept has been around for a long time. I ask you to have a look at the last one, Galaxy Zoo. For those of you who like to like the area of astronomy, you probably have heard about that before. It's a website that attracts people who are interested in looking at stars. And all they ask is some input from human beings. And that is, they put a lot of photos out there and ask you to, hey, run your eyes over these photos. Do you see a Milky Way around in the photo? In other words, a ring of stars. And then can you also say if there's a ring, is this spiraling clockwise or counterclockwise? So here we go. If you look at the top left one, there's a spiral, but there's no definitive direction to tell. Top middle one, clearly there's a spiral and it's spiraling counterclockwise. Top right, there are two interlocking spirals, but again, no dominating direction. Bottom left, pretty obvious, spiral with clockwise spinning. Bottom right, there's no spiral to talk about at all. So stop there. How much time we have used to run our eyes and cast our opinion for those 5 photos? Less than 20 seconds, right? These are the things that the cloud should ask human being to solve, to ask human being for input, okay? Now, second example, this one is in the cloud, Recaptcha. Recaptcha is something that probably you have seen it before, but you may not know what it does, right? Anyone has recall about dealing with this before? Typically, when you sign into an account or when you are being asked to authenticate that you claim who you are, they will put up 2 words, right? In fact, Recaptcha is a spin-off of a computer science thesis from Canadian Mellon University. Very bright graduate, very bright idea. Recaptcha is a company that actually do machine translation, right? It can, scan OCR, written text, printed text, and so forth. But of course, with written text, there's a higher possibility some of the texts are, scribbled and it's difficult to interpret. This is where Recaptcha comes in. It stores all those that the machine is not confident of recognizing exactly what those characters are, and then send it out to various people who are just about to type in or authenticate themselves. So do you know that in fact for these pair of words, reCAPTCHA behind only know the answer to one of those words, right? Which means, do you know that for each pair of words being shown to you, reCAPTCHA doesn't know the answer to one of those two words. So reCAPTCHA is using each and every one of us to provide our input to those words, and then the scientists setting the software will decide at the back whether if they have captured something like 20 matching patterns that human beings saying that these are the words that indeed the pattern corresponds, then we'll feed it back to the machine translation software and continue, right? So it's one excellent example of using people's input to carry on, and this can add to the analytics as well. So reCAPTCHA publicly declares and thanks the world for helping them to save $1 million US per day, right? Take that to the learning domain. Have a look at this website, Duolingo, right? And this website is teaching people, kids, adults, and so forth, languages, right? Typically, you have your mother tongue and you want to learn another language. So they give you a simple statement to start with, simple languages, simple sentences, keywords to start with, about the corresponding phrase, corresponding words between the two languages. But applying the same concept as reCAPTCHA, do you know that Duolingo sometimes also asks you words that it doesn't even know the corresponding answer or corresponding phrase in the other language? Once again, it's using the same technique, bounce it off with lots and lots of people, and you can select to bounce it off to those people who are more advanced in the learning or even experts, and then source the answer, and then after validation becomes reCAPTCHA's own corpus for translation. Right? So very innovative idea in obtaining input to continue with learning. So in my own teaching area for the last 4 years, I've also tried installing or helping my students to configure a personal learning environment, because everybody knows that large class lectures still exist, like the one that Dr. Pardo has, 300 students. But in terms of the proportion of these lectures are getting less and less. More and more so, we are starting to see students are working on their own, intermittently, in various places, and creating their own learning spaces. And I start to realize that, look, I can't see them all the time, and our learning management systems may not be ubiquitous and pervasive enough to cover all these learning environments. Sometimes in their own learning spaces, they also include people who are graduates. Sometimes they also include people who are not in the class as well. So how can we be very dynamic so that we can provide a learning environment for all students, graduates as well, so that we can all learn together, including me. So we went to look for various types of common web portal platforms like Google, Yahoo, and so forth, and checked. And in this case, the design rationale is, every day, no matter you're a teacher or a student, you receive a lot of information, more than what you can cope with. You have to put it in your USB, in your hard disk, as a bookmark or whatever. But it's also true that everyone in a society, at any point in time, we belong to different circles, right? So in other words, right now we're in this room, in this session, just because of the session brings us together, right? After today and tomorrow, you're back to your workplace, you belong to another community. After work, maybe you go to, another special interest club, which you belong to a member as well. In some groups, we play leaders. In some groups, we are backseat riders. In some groups, we are influencers. So this environment is necessary to be sufficiently dynamic so that people can mix and match different types of tools. So after the serious evaluation, we were able to settle on 3 common and public domain tools: Google Address Book, Google Plus Community, and that changed every few months as well, because you have to keep up the move with Google. They keep on changing things and introducing new things. And also we use Feedly, which is a Google Reader equivalent to RSS feeds to keep up with automatic receival of information. So as long as all the people in the learning environments adopt those 3 common tools, we are linked up in various communities, in various circles for sharing. And it functions like a semi-automatic bulletin board. And I have had wonderful feedback with this from the students and also graduates. It's also, to me, breaking new grounds, because never ever was it easy to bring graduates into the classroom. So now I find a way that I can bring graduates especially graduates who are, about 3 or 4 years ago, because they're in the same age group as the students, and they provide very good comment and advice to the students as well. I'm now at a stage that I can mix, the PLEN, the personal learning environment, between 2 different universities, so that I can study the cross-knowledge facilitation among these groups. So people share by commenting, annotating on the articles that come in via the RSS feeds. People post articles in there. People tweet and repost, relevant articles from one source to another source. And of course, people can also recommend new feeds so that we can continually, tap onto the quality feeds and everybody benefits. So such an environment, in order to survive, my conclusion is it has to be easy to set up. It needs almost no maintenance, right? Of course, it has to be free. Plus, instructor like myself has to spend a lot of time in there, working with the students and co-learning with the students and graduates as well. And through this, they find value. So I'm very glad to report that now it's been running for about 4 years. Over 2,000 students have used it, and about 15 to 20% of the students, now graduates, continue to use it. So it's a very good sign that lifelong learning has somewhat enacted across all these people. I won't talk about all the benefits here. I also released the slides for you. Trust and quality, or maintaining the trust and quality in such a personal learning environment is very important. Otherwise, it can go off track very easily. Now, coming back to cloud computing, this thing has been running on the Google Public Cloud for 4 years, and theoretically, I don't need to worry about how many students I get every semester. Sometimes I get 20, sometimes I get 60, sometimes I get 80, but never, ever I need to place a call or have to work out any sort of planning with the IT department, right? Because we're using the Google Cloud. Finally, on big data and analytics for education, my good friend Usama Fayed, he was Senior Vice President and Chief Data Officer at Yahoo. He's now the Chief Data Officer at Barclays Bank. And he made a revealing statement in one of his presentations, and that is when he was working for Yahoo, Yahoo did a lot of analysis. They collect a huge amount of data, and one of the purpose is to retain and look after, the loyal customers. And one of the loyal customers they discover are people who come to their website to look at news, right? So they have an account at Yahoo. They can check email. But the most loyal customers turn out to be people who also stay at the Yahoo portal to look at news. They never know why. They never know why. This is the key. So, but the data cannot cheat. So years and years of data led Yahoo to carry that impression, and they throw a lot of resources into beefing up better and better interfaces for people who are, working on email and also reading news. There are lots and lots of case studies being taught by these books, and I invite you to read them because they are extremely enlightening. Finally, I just want to throw up these they are real results and statements that I've collected through reading learning analytics and also data-proven predictions. And there's a learning point in here, which is, in the big data era, including big data for education, we have to go for speed to formulate the advice, the prediction, and we have to forego, on many occasions, exactness for approximations. Finally, I must give credit to this tool by Hong Kong UST, Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. Have a look at this MOOC. It's in the public domain. They come out with this tool that tracks every point people watching a video on a MOOC course. So if you look at the orange bars are people who are moving forward, right? That's not very important. So people bypassing content and just click to move forward. But the blue one, the blue bars are very important. See, there are clusters and clusters of blue bars pointing back to the left, and these are areas where people are watching the video and they find that they need to go back, right? So professors are analyzing all these points and then redoing the videos. In particular, on those points, they will further elaborate or try to work out why so many people have to go back, right? There must be something that we didn't say clearly or something else that we can do. All right, so my time is up. Just to let you know about the challenges I believe in learning. They are no less insignificant as what Dr. Pardo have talked about before. A lot of change needs to mindset changes is needed in university. Now that I've whet your appetite, for those of you who are interested in big data, in education, and also MOOC and knowledge management, our group is launching Hong Kong PolyU's first MOOC in the edX platform, and you can just type edX Hong Kong PolyUX in Google to locate the page to sign up. Or if you're not convinced yet, I introduce you to play the introductory video, which you can also type edX and Hong Kong PolyUX in YouTube, and you easily find it. All right, with that, I'd like to thank you for the concentration and pass back to Chairman Prof. Lee. Thank you.